the Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited. Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom, shalom, shalom. I know this is a pleasant surprise. I'm Elder Rawchaa of the Gathering of Christ Church here with our weekly broadcast. Usually it's on a Wednesday night, but I'm going to come back tomorrow night anyway. But after some of the information I've embarked on, I had to come on and speak to you all about this, okay? It's so important to talk about what's going on in the last days that I couldn't wait with some of the information I've been researching. Blessings to you, brothers and sisters. I thank the Most High for another day to come before you all. Shalom to my brothers and sisters throughout the four corners of the earth. I'm Elder Rawchaa of the Gathering of Christ Church here in sunny Delaware. It feels good out here. I'm in Delaware. So it's a blessing. Blessings to you all. Okay. So I know you're wondering to what is owed this particular pleasure of me coming on today. To what is owed. And in a nutshell, I was doing some research to go into the religious aspect of Babylon for the Academy. From Babylon, Rome to America is the theme for the Academy. I mean, I love the way it was laid out last Sunday, week 1, week 2. We'll be going into more aspects of the spiritual understanding of Babylon. What was at the tower, the religion, and what have you, that went from Babylon all the way through Rome under different ideologies and names, okay, all the way here to America, where actually the religion of Babylon has been embedded within our culture. Which means when the so-called founding fathers of America, who are and were cultists, they was from the occult, they thought to make an entire society that would initiate all of its citizens into the Babylonian religion without them realizing they're participating. Okay, and that's deep in of itself. Okay, one moment, okay? Sorry about that. And that's deep within itself, okay? To set up a whole society of citizens who believe they're free, but really you are a willing participant unknowingly in a religion. And it doesn't matter whether or not you are a Christian, Muslim, atheist, the ideology itself, which is the image of Babylon, is in essence a religion. So the more I began to go into this, it all makes sense what's going on with P. Diddy. The more I researched the occult practices, the rituals that were once behind the scene that the whole world, especially Americans, are participating in right now as far as culture. Well, all of what we're witnessing was once behind closed doors amongst the occultists. And every person participating in the ancient religion had a position and or title. What is the title of P. Diddy? What is the title of the people who participated in the parties with him? Why are the parties necessary under the occult religion? Believe it or not, folks, when I began to study this, I did this without even thinking about what's going on with Shawn Combs, Bad Boy, the music industry. But the more I looked into the religion of Babylon for this up and coming week 2 lesson, I couldn't help but understand everything in reading the mystery schools of Babylon. When you go into the mystery schools of Babylon, it makes perfect sense on how to control the population. As long as they are initiated into the occult spirit of the ancient Babylonians, and there's certain key people in place, institutions, Rosicrucians, synagogues, and others that initiate this particular spirit into the world as a culture with a satanic dark plan. And I'm going to use what they have in the news today as a talking point. Why am I bringing this up right now? Well, brothers and sisters, if I haven't told you already, the Most High is warning all people, our people, to protect our boys. Protect our boys. Okay? I'm going to break it all down to you. So is this saying not to protect women? Absolutely not. It's not saying that. But the women cannot be protected if the boys are broken. If the men are broken, the women are vulnerable. And we're going to use Shawn Combs today as the case study here of one who was subjected under the Babylonian rituals, initiated as a young age, from a young age, to do exactly what he was doing. From a young age. And what happens is, once you are a part of the syndicate, once you are a part of the occult, there's no breaking bad. You cannot grow a conscience in an attempt to switch to the light side against the darkness. If you grow a conscience, non-like one that's in Christ, and the Most High, if you grow a conscience, all you've done on the dark side will be brought to light. Because the people who are the high sorceress over the Babylonian temples do not go by Christ's principles. They do not believe in forgiveness. Okay? They do not believe in forgiveness. They're eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And everything you do is recorded, not how the angels record us in heaven, but it's recorded for them to use against you once you break bad. Now, why am I using him, P. Diddy, today as a case study? Because, folks, this is deeper than P. Diddy. There's thousands upon thousands of Shawn Combs who are victimized as little boys, who are groomed to take the place of people like Shawn Combs. In our neighborhoods every day, they're victimized. They are abused. Through the abuse, under the occult Babylonian ideology, that particular child, and this happens to men, little boys, and little girls, that child takes on an alter ego. And that's the ego. That's the spirit or the personality the occultists or the high priesthood recognize and get to. Automatically, children are innocent. So what happens when something happens when they're violated sexually, it's hard for them to actually put that together as a pure child. It confuses them. But in order to stay innocent, they must create an alter ego. An ego that they create in themselves so that they can still keep the good side of them pure. But that ego is now the protector. It stands in the place of a parent or a guardian that should have protected that child's innocence. I'm going to show y'all everything. I'm going to show you where I'm getting this from. And the elite that's over our society understands that all victims have that in them. Because my parents couldn't protect me, I must protect myself. And that person takes on an entirely different personality that comes out when it feels what? Threatened. When it feels like it felt as a child in a room with a grown person coming in to violate and take away their purity. And it comes out at different stages in their lives as adults. Every time they feel vulnerable or attacked, the alter ego that was created fights. Why am I bringing this up? We must get in front of all abuse. These boys must be protected. They must be protected because in ancient times, ancient Phoenician times, this is how the priesthood and the priestesses were able to gain what? More initiates into the craft. By choosing the victimized children that have a problem with society. This is how they were able to initiate people into the Moloch priesthood. And this is why there's a continual attack a continual attack on family. There's a concerted effort to make sure that there's no masculinity around to protect the household so that they can initiate more children, boys and girls, into the Moloch priesthood. Even those, and I'm using the entertainment business today as an example, but this applies because what I'm talking about has destroyed all of our communities everywhere. We don't know that we're up against a ritualistic attack that strategically takes the innocence of children to initiate them into the satanic brotherhood and or sisterhood. So I'm going to tell you when some people begin to wake up. They begin to wake up, especially those who have talent and or goes into the entertainment business. Film, art, all these other areas with this unique talents they have. Usually they go inside that music business or the entertainment business. I grew up singing, and whatever the case is, the arts and all these others. This is where the special people, they call them, are separated from the rest as geniuses to be trendsetters and or to control culture. Okay? I'm breaking it down so y'all can understand it. You can say what you want. The arts had what? A serious impact on all of our lives. Okay? Entertainment, singing, dancing, all right? The arts, theater. It all had a profound effect on our thoughts, on our conscience, on how we interact. Right? So it's a powerful, powerful tool that can be utilized to set forth the Babylonian culture, if only controlled. Right? So when you get into the business, you start to realize there's two separate worlds. The real world and the world they've programmed us to believe exists. But when you get into the music business and all that, you go into the grown world. You go into the world of high ritualistic power that controls the world. But some people have just natural talent, and they'll get in and they'll wonder, what is this? And begin to ask questions. Like Dave Chappelle did a few years ago. And when he started asking these questions, the media lockstep all together claimed that he was on drugs, he was on crack, he fled to Africa, he was crazy. But no, Dave Chappelle is logical. Okay? Okay? One moment. Hold on, I'm blocking. Right? Excuse me? Dave Chappelle, right? Logical. Why do I say that? You notice Dave Chappelle is always, through his skits and others, what makes him funny is because what? He connect the dots and say the things that are right out front that most of us know exist but refuse to say. Well, he got into the business how logical he was. And don't forget, this young man, he was a prodigy from a child. They found Dave Chappelle on Star Search. Okay? One moment. One moment. I'm sorry about that. People are moving around, and this is an impromptu broadcast, so I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. So Dave Chappelle had questions. He was a young star from Star Search growing up in the business. You know, Ed McMahon, all those others. But still he couldn't resolve the world he was thrust into. Right? So he couldn't make sense of things like this. Fair use.
Conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know. But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress. This happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in. It's the writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, you got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a prostitute. And he put this dress on. And, what? A prostitute? No, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. You know, the pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then, like, the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So then, wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? This is, oh, gosh, this guy's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David, would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why they be putting us in these dresses? But the minute it was clear, I was adamant, I'm not wearing a dress, I'm not.
But understand, CK8, you're right. Dave Chappelle did wear tights and dresses in the beginning of his career. Okay? In Robin Hood in Tights by Milton Berle. That's why he just said, what is this, Milton Berle or something? That was a Milton Berle production. But he was coming up in the business and didn't realize there was something to it. And as he began to grow and mature, he started to realize something wasn't right with it and begin to refuse. So when you're young, you think you're just acting and all these others, but when you begin to mature, you'll start to realize and start to ask yourself a question. Is this just acting? Or am I being initiated into a ritual? What is this? Fair use.
Wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. Guy comes back 10 minutes later, the whole new scene. Hot damn, how did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take a stand.
You see what he said? You gotta take a stand. What do you think? I'm going to fill in some of the blanks. I'm going to talk about this again as I go into, we're probably going to have to do a whole series into Patreon also concerning this. Here's the young Shawn Combs, an altar boy who went to Mount St. Michael, Bronx, New York City, 1985. What was the young Shawn Combs introduced to?
Shawn went to Catholic Mount St. Michael Academy in the Bronx. Shawn was also an altar boy, so he'd help out in the ceremony, whatever was needed. In the 80s, there was unspeakable things going on at Mount St. Academy. The FBI were even watching the school, mainly watching the principal, who was called Brother Brady, the chaplain, named Reverend Lynch, who was there for 12 years, so the whole time Shawn was there. Shawn left in 1987, but both of them were charged in 1988. Principal was sentenced, but the Reverend, who was the chaplain, wasn't sentenced.
The principal was sentenced, but the chaplain of the Catholic Church, who's a part of a lot of this, wasn't charged. At the school where P. Diddy came up,
one person came forward, and his name was John Chauffeur. He's in the film Garfield. He couldn't handle the court trial, so he left, and there was no further evidence about the Reverend. In the 90s, the principal got a similar job in Chicago, and the Reverend wrote a book and became the first Catholic priest to have a civil part.
So the Reverend that was the principal of the school where P. Diddy went ended up marrying another man. Down the line, a lot of weird stuff going on in this school. And on Sundays, Shawn Combs, not P. Diddy at the time, was an altar boy.
Partnership. Marrying in 1998 and legally marrying in 2017.
Now, let's move it forward. Clive Davis, the one who discovered P. Diddy. Now, were they watching him as a child all the way up until his adult age, grooming him for a specific purpose? Well, let's hold our opinion on this up until I show you the rituals of ancient Babylon on some of my white papers that I have before you. Hold tight, I'll show them in a moment. It's going to all come together very quick, mind you.
There's a really great part of your book called Bad Boy, where you talk about working with Puff Daddy. What do you think he learned from you that kind of catapulted him to being this music mogul that he is today?
We met when he was very young. I think Puffy was 21. And in meeting Puffy, he played me Craig Mack. He played me Biggie. He had 4 cuts of Biggie at the time. And his vision and attraction to me was, we were, even though a relatively new label, Arista Records, we were a top 40 powerhouse. And it was his vision that hip-hop could go top 40, where the big economic payoff was.
Fair use.
And I must say, he convinced me of it, and we followed his dream together and accomplished just that with hits from him and Mace and Biggie, left and right.
You talk about in this book, it's amazing how in the 90s there was this tumultuous time in hip-hop where you had the death of Biggie, the death of Tupac. There was a rapper named Shine who was arrested. Even Puff Daddy himself got into a little bit of a scuffle with a record executive you mentioned in the book. And you said that you never really unwavered your faith and your trust in him to lead this team that he was leading. Why is that you always, kept the trust and faith in him?
Puffy loved music. We had a very open, honest relationship with each other, and his vision and our strength and ability and being able to fulfill someone else's vision was working like a charm, so that to some extent, in looking back, I write in my book, I could be Mr. Magoo. I didn't, I never had a bodyguard. Maybe I was in the midst, and of course I read. It's not that I was not aware. I'm a hands-on guy, but I was always treated by the hip-hop community with enormous respect, whether it's respect for all of the music and artists I've been involved with. So I didn't take, perhaps a little stupidly, serious that there could be some personal insecurity here.
You open up a very important...
Now, before I play it more, we already see the Catholic side of things when he grew up as an altar boy, right? Then when he gets out of high school initially, right, he's picked by someone Jewish or under Judaism. And they would have us believe these two are separate. But the modern day Christianity isn't Christianity at all according to what Christ established. It's something else. It's from what? The new ideology of the Jesuits. It's from the old occult school of Babylonian knowledge. The Christianity we have today is a part of the problem. Everything that embodies the spirits and rituals and the satanic sex acts of Babylon, you can find in the majority, 90% of Christian churches. So we have the Christian Catholics working on one side, and we got the Jewish people working on the other side under an ideology for those who understand what they are a part of. Now, are all Christians a part of it? Are all Jewish people a part of it? No. We're talking about the organized factions who control culture through industry, okay? Through corporations.
Important dialogue, I think, in music, with you coming out and talking about your sexuality openly. And Frank Ocean also is another artist who opened up this year about his sexuality. Do you think that there's other hip-hop and R&B artists that are closeted, and would it affect their careers and their marketing and album sales if they were to come out?
I discussed bisexuality because it's so misunderstood, and just said, for me, later in life, I could be attracted to a woman, I could be attracted to a man. Each story is different. I'm very gratified, in the case of Frank Ocean, that the hip-hop community has embraced him. And maybe we're reaching that time where people can judge everyone without reference to their sexual preference or identity.
You'll never...
Now, let's talk about it real quick. Right? What is this fascination with homosexuality and bisexuality? Right? Within the entertainment business, and they use the entertainment business to influence the mass culture. Right? To initiate people into a religion without them knowing. Well, when you go into the sacred text of the Rosicrucians, and I have some of it before us, we're going to give you some insight on some of these people and what their philosophies are. I can't go through the whole thing because it's pieces that I have for the Academy going into the foundation, the spiritual foundation of Babylon. But I'm going to show you where they merge between Christians, who are really pagans, and the Rosicrucians, along with different sects of Judaism controlled by the Jewish. The German groups of Rosicrucians now existing are more immersed in mystic occult lore. Mystic occult lore. Now, what is this about? Listen to me clearly. Than ourselves. they endeavored to extend the human faculties beyond the material toward the ethereal, the astral, and spiritual worlds. At the present time, I understand that they use no formulated ritual. But German colleges have experienced a notable revival, and the teachings of Rudolf Steiner are considered as giving an introduction of their system of occult theosophy. Several of Steiner's volumes are now available in English translation, such as The Initiation as Its Results, The Gates of Knowledge, and Way of Initiation. Now let me jump down here. The societies, Rosicruciana in Scotia, as well as the Rosicrucians in the United States of America, they have what? One of their main temples is in New York City, were branches from the same Rosicrucian source and sprang from a rejuvenation by Frater Robert Wentworth. Let's go down. Listen to this. And I have this book too, the one I'm about to cite from. After 50 years earlier, a certain eminent Jew named Falk, that's where Judaism come in, folks, and Dr. Falcon, lived in London, a reference to whom will be found in the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry. I have the original book from the turn of the 20th century of this particular book. I'll be going into that this coming Sunday. And was a high repute as a teacher of the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism, magic on the next level. Okay? Now these levels of arts are operated on high levels over corporations, over businesses. Okay? Now, what exactly are their function? I'm going to show you. Of other studies of Rosicrucian character, he was indeed said to have magical powers. Falk could not have fully affiliated into the Rosicrucian college because he was a strict Jew of Jews. So they try to claim it's strictly a Catholic thing. But no, they're both working at the top of it. Both at the top. Rosicrucians as well as Jesuits. Jesuits have hid themselves under the name of apologetics today. But they're really the ancient priest and or priestesses of Babylon. If they were living back in ancient times, that would be their titles. And the members of the true Rosicrucians colleges have always been Christians. They're together, folks. Modern day Christianity and modern day Judaism works one in the same. Darkness against the light, and they're both the darkness. Right? Now, why am I going there? As you can see, old young Shawn Combs went from where? Old young Shawn Combs went from an altar boy as a Catholic, groomed and moved into the industry. And now he's being received through an organized dark society, an occult society. Brothers and sisters, this is the ancient art of Babylon, the ancient cult of Babylon, in plain sight being shown us through the music business. And no one asks, what do these young boys go through that lead them into such deviancy? They just show you the deviant part and say, look how bad he is. Look how evil he is. And no one ignores how P-DIDDYs are made out of Shawn Combs. And it's important because he's a black young man. He was a black young man. And if we don't understand how they make Shawn Combs and the P-DIDDYs, one of our sons can be made into one. Okay? And how do they make Cassies? How do they make other women who are initiated into the secret occult of Babylon? Well, I need y'all to look at this now. Look at this now. Now, I can't go into everything, but this is from a record or a book that was published in 1978. And y'all can look up this book yourself, right? And this book came right out of the free life and what you would call the hippie life of the 60s, right? Witchcraft and gay counterculture. And what is this talking about? The hidden rituals of ancient Babylon. As you can see, here's the pictures, right? Moloch in the middle, Bel or Baal. Well, he's the god of the pagans for human sacrifice, right? Then you have many people partying and dealing with rituals at certain times, regalia at certain times, in reverence to the horn god, the Baphomet. Witchcraft and the gay counterculture. Once reading this is why I decided to do an impromptu broadcast today. This explains all the parties they claim P. Diddy was personally responsible for, as if these parties were his parties. Now, let's go into this a little bit and show you how the priests and the priestesses operate. And why do they do it? Well, listen to this clearly. The elite Rosicrucians and the occultists of Babylon, who has a capital in New York, the Babylonian capital of the world, they understand there's certain times of the week and year that the Almighty God of light communicates with all people on earth, regardless of race. Okay? There's windows that are open where the Most High is communicating. Usually it's on the Sabbath, Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, or on the holy days written of in the scriptures. But if these Rosicrucians, listen how they work, can cause darkness at these key times when the Most High is communicating or attempting to communicate with us, darkness that leads to sin. Listen to me clearly. Then when the signal is coming to save us, we're busy operating in the darkness. Therefore, the signal becomes distorted. So it's upon the Rosicrucian and the satanic priests to have us in sin and darkness during those times, only to hide themselves from the darkness they create. And how do they create it? How do they hide themselves? Well, in their synagogues, they'll have a Sabbath where they can't do nothing from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Why? So that they're not subjected to the darkness or the chaos that they have let loose in the earth, knowing it's at its peak at Friday night. They don't want their children out there. They don't want no one out there, and they hide themselves from the darkness they create. And in order to create that darkness, they must have what? Low priests who were initiated into it to have these certain regalias and parties Friday to Saturday. And you would never guess who they embolden and finance to have these parties that bring darkness into the earth to control culture. I think you all are getting the picture here, right? Now let's go into it now. Right? So let me show you this real quick. Let's go into it. So who would they get? They would get certain people initiated into the priesthood, young boys once they're compromised. Here's a book that came out in 1978, Witchcraft and the Counterculture. Witchcraft and the Counterculture by Arthur Evans. A radical view of Western civilization and some of the people it has tried to destroy. Right? It's a counterculture. It's a culture against ethics, against righteousness. And this is what they've pushed on our neighborhoods. You wonder why we can't excel. Right? Now, what in particular do I want to show? Because I'm not going to be here long. We're going straight to page 87. Page 87. The medieval counterculture. Listen to this clearly. This is the old religion. The old religion had a coherent worldview. Behind it, its many forms, there lay a basic outlook on life, a way of feeling and experiencing nature and other people that was passed down from generation to generation. This worldview was manifest first in ancient paganism. That's your modern day Christianity, your modern day Islam, and it's your modern day synagogues or Judaism, because they're the high priest over it all, along with the Rosicrucians. Then in medieval heresy, finally in witchcraft, although the old religion and Christianity influenced other, and in some cases even fused, that means they merged with it. The root beliefs and the social forms of the old religion formed a genuine counterculture, a rebellion culture against God. Is what they've programmed our children into what? Into actually upholding. And having our children, what? Long to be a part of a counterculture, an anti-God, anti-Christ culture. Radically opposing the way of traditional Christians, how traditional Christians lived and thought, opposed to the original Christianity that was established with Christ and the disciples. When our forefathers lost Jerusalem, the true Christianity was destroyed until the Most High had it come into the earth in the end times as we're delivering it now, before a judgment. They destroyed, they came after the Christians. They destroyed the saints with the sword. They were against the true belief, only to repackage it and deliver it as a new form of paganism to bring in the darkness. Listen to this. The old religion was polytheistic, which is the belief in many gods. Its most important deity was a goddess who was worshipped as a great mother. Mary, anyone? That's not Mary at all. It's Semiramis. Its second major deity, goddess, was worshipped as the Great Mother. Its second major deity was the horn god, Moloch, for child sacrifice. You notice, folks, that we're in a time where people can just off their own children without thought. Well, they are a part of the ritual. And if it wasn't for people in place through the priesthood to demoralize the world, they would have what? Less criminality and less deaths on the earth. But they need front men, front people who are compromised. Its second major deity was the horn god, associated with animals and sexuality, including homosexuality. These and other deities were worshipped in the countryside at night with feasting. Now, this is where the parties come in at. Dancing, animal masquerades, transvestism, sex orgies. Listen to this. And the use of hallucinogenic drugs. Does that not sound like the parties that one man is being prosecuted for right now? Huh? Who's really behind these parties? Why was this such a deep thing that Homeland Security and the FBI and everybody else had to come to a house to confiscate materials, to confiscate videos, and you want to believe the story that they're distracting you with talking about baby oil? You need Homeland Security to go and get a few bottles of baby oil? Or was this a part of a ritualistic, organized, occult practice with many involved in the priesthood? Okay? Are they just hanging out one of their groomed priests to dry? And if so, why? So the whole thing is this. Listen to this. Listen. Here's the Babylonian rituals. They need this. And they need the darkness to move culture towards the darkness. And what we're seeing is the priesthood in plain sight without them saying it. They can't tell you what these are and what their plans are. This is evil, satanic, high level. And guess what? What makes it worse? They're targeting our people and separating our families to make more of them. The old religion was polytheistic. Its most important deity was a goddess who was worshipped as a great mother. Its second major deity was the horn god, associated with animals and sexuality, including homosexuality. These and other deities were worshipped in the countryside at night with feasting, dancing, animal masquerades, transvestism, sex orgies, and the use of hallucinogenic drugs. Sensual acts were at the heart of the old religion. Since there was a worldly religion of joy and celebration, the testimony of the witches themselves, when uncoerced, bore witness to the joyfulness. So these are the women who are willingly participating. Cassie, anyone? Now, I need y'all to check this out. Why do they, I'm speaking of those under Judaism, why do they observe the Sabbath? It's not because they follow Torah. A lot of them eat pork and everything else and break every other law that's written contained in the book. But yet they'll keep Sabbath. Right? Why? People like Clive Davis, who said he's bisexual, whatever the case is. Well, he's Jew and follow the law, but still he don't follow the law when it comes to his sexuality. But yet he'll be at the synagogue every Sabbath religiously. Right? Why? Well, check this out. A 17th century judge reported, Jean Debison, 29 years old, tells us that the Sabbath is the true paradise, where there is more pleasure than one can express. Sometimes motivated by desire to discredit paganism, inquisitors tortured witches until they denied their joy and said the celebrations were disgusting. And in so doing, the inquisitors were like some modern psychiatrists who treat gay patients into saying the gay life can't possibly be happy. Now we're going to stop there in comparison and contrast. Right? It's the Sabbath from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, where the witches and warlocks who deal with these sex acts feel the most pleasure, because they are what? They are mocking God through their parties on Friday night, which is even more pleasure, guilty pleasure, because they're doing it at a time when God is actually attempting to communicate with his children on earth. So the witches and warlocks plan all of their parties and say it's even greater pleasure to do it when they're rebelling against the God of Sabbath. Y'all see why I couldn't wait to bring this out? I was chopping at the bit and say, I got to do it tomorrow night, but you know what? I had some time. I'm like, I better bring this out right now, before we allow them to do the same thing they continue to do to us over and over again. Throw our people under the bus that they have actually groomed and destroyed, only to put all the deviancy that they've created on us and make us the face of it. When they're behind all the rituals that are aimed towards destroying all that's right in the earth, aimed towards destroying the children of Israel. Now there's more. This is where the women come in at. Women were the chief priests and leaders of the old religion. Like your women pastors. Like women have found themselves in all key positions. Well, folks, they're the priestess of Babylon. They're in rebellion against God, performing the roles of prophet, midwife, and healer. Women priests impersonated the goddess and acted in her name. And although groups of male priests also existed, such as Druids, they never suppressed the religious role of the women. The material substructure of the old religion was a matriarchal social system that reached back to the Stone Age. Now, folks, it also goes into why they preferred the women in high positions of ritual. They can be used where men couldn't. Like, for instance, in the document, it talks about the power of lesbians. Okay? Because lesbians have a different thought. They're really not dedicated or committed to men or women. Okay? But to their individual cause and or benefit. Okay? Now, these individuals are in essence Satan's secret weapons, who at any time can hide as victims to garner sympathy when they're seen. A power that even homosexual men don't have. Okay? Homosexual men, once they're caught, cannot cry and say, okay, I was abused. I was forced to do this. So the lesbians who work on either side of pleasure has an out at any time that a man doesn't. They can participate on either side, and this is why Satan uses them as the secret weapon according to the document. They're the lead priestesses. They're the ones that you're going to see heading the pride marches and all these others, Because one thing they can do that men cannot, they can indulge in the pleasure, and at any time they can operate as innocent, pure, heterosexual women and or victim. Right? Now, in closing, now check this out. In closing, just last year, this was published January 17, 2024. Diego settles legal dispute with Diddy over spirits brands. How many people knew this happened? The alcohol giant, who is cutting ties with the rapper, will remain the sole owner of De Leon Tequila and Ciroc Vodka. Diego reached a settlement with Shawn Diddy Combs after the rapper and businessman accused the company of neglecting the two spirit brands he partnered on due to race. In a statement Tuesday, the beverage giant said Combs has withdrawn all of his allegations about Diego, will voluntarily dismiss his lawsuits against Diego with prejudice, which means he cannot sue them again. The company and the rapper will have no business relationships going forward. It said Diego will remain the sole owner of De Leon Tequila and Ciroc Vodka. No financial terms of the deal were announced. In the original lawsuit filed last month, Combs claimed Diego did not follow through on investments into his alcohol brands and viewed them as inferior products that they only sold in urban locales. It alleged the brands did not receive the same resources as its other prominent celebrity spirits brands like George Clooney's Casamigos tequila. So what did he do? He broke bad. He started seeing the numbers showing that he was competing with the international brands when they were only marketing his brands to the black market, the black community. And he was still competing financially against the heavy hitters. And guess what? They knew he was right, and he won the case. Now, of course, it said it's not disclosed. But in certain circulations, in certain circles, they're saying that he settled for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just to make this claim go away against Diego. To make this claim go away from Shawn Combs, guess what, folks? Boom. Hundreds of thousands of dollars they gave him. Hundreds of millions of dollars they gave him before there was such thing as a case of abuse shown that we've seen 10 years later from a hotel. Last January 2024, there was no case at all. No abuse, no RICO, no nothing. Okay? But this is what what happens when you break bad and when you lay down with snakes. Once you are jumped into the game, once you are a part of the cult, there's no getting out. Okay? So this is no defense for him, but do you think it's a coincidence that happened last year, January 2024, and now we're hearing about a case of him and Cassie now? Huh? So I pray for all of them. We pray for all of them who's under sin and have initiated into the Babylonian ritual. But all in all, what we can do is everything we can as parents to make sure that no more Shawn Combs are turned into P. Diddy. Protect our boys. With that, I'm going to say shalom. May the Most High be with you. Stay prayed up. And one other thing I wanted to show I have to end it with the Bible. And this is why the Most High gave us Leviticus, the 20th chapter. This is why he gave us Leviticus, the 20th chapter. Mind you, okay? I already told you. I already showed you, brothers and sisters, about this. The secret occult that's controlled to keep the darkness over our people, over our community. Okay? The Moloch sacrifice. And this is why they've pushed LGBTQ as the minority group above all. It's their ritual. The Babylonian ritual in plain sight, outright, as an attack against those who would believe in God. Outright, it's the ritual. Same rituals that we're hearing only P. Diddy was a part of. And I'm making sense of it for you here today. And this is why our God said what? When we came out of Egypt. He said, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Moloch, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. Well, Moloch, folks, is the god of child sacrifice. So anytime you see a child getting deleted, or them talking about Planned Parenthood and all that, that's the ritual that they've initiated us into participating with. And it's all connected together with lesbianism, with homosexuality. That's why you see it's LGBTQ pushing women's rights. Well, it's not women's right at all. It's really what you call pagan child sacrifice in plain sight, with now the whole society participating in it. No longer is it a dark, out of the way occult practice separate from the rest of society. It has assimilated itself within the culture, and they use the music business to do it. More. And I will set my face against that man, and will cut him off from amongst his people, because he hath given his seed to Moloch. Now, what else is connected to Moloch? How do they get their priests? Well, when you go down to the 13th verse, it states, let's start here. If a man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, he that committeth adultery with the neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. That's wife swapping and all of that, which is a part of the Moloch ritual that they do, especially on Friday nights. All of this is the P. Diddy party. But is it P. Diddy's party, or is it a Moloch party? And if so, who's the priest over P. Diddy? That's just a question. Maybe it's the guy who admitted this. Leviticus 20 and 13. If a man also lie with mankind, as he lieth with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination, they shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. This also talks about all sexual immorality, which embodies the Babylonian cult system that they've organized and aimed towards destroying our people. I thank you all for your presence. Hope you all, brothers and sisters, have been edified and understand what we are all up against. Okay? So may the Most High be with you until I see you tomorrow. Shalom. Have a pleasant day. And if anybody want to know what's going on with the trial, point them back here. I thank the Most High for allowing me another day to be able to present something before you all. Like, share, subscribe, and send this out to everyone you know. Do not believe what the media is saying. They're covering up their rituals and their priesthood. And we're going to expose even more with our next broadcast, especially this coming Sunday. Eventually, we'll be going into the foundation. So the foundation of Babylon, so you can understand what their priests look like. Okay? What their priestesses look like and how they've assimilated themselves into society as our experts, our professors, our preachers, our pastors, our rabbis. With that, have a blessed day. Shalom.